alongside the A11. Very, very fast airfield circuit, wide open spaces. So long as we have no crosswinds, the riders will be very comfortable here. Grey skies beginning to clear now along the front row of the grid. Number 24, Paul Lewis on the Ducati. Very, very fast. The Sports Motorcycles Ducati was thundering round here. A mellow bellow is the only way I can describe the sound it makes. Number 19, and that is Rob McElnea on the Yamaha, the ex-Grand Prix rider. Very much a superbike man these days. Rob Mack, the big 30-year-old Humbersider. Next to Rob Mack on the front row, Carl Fogarty, number 4 on the Honda, so a complete mixture of machinery across the front row. And in pole position, the number 7 pole position man, the fellow Yamaha rider Terry Rymer, the Southeast Londoner. So the current Super Cup champion in 750cc class, Steve Spray, is in fact on the second row. There he is, number 20, Steve Spray on the Norton. So what a variety of machinery we have. Steve, 1989 was such a successful season for you. 2 championships, and of course the Super Cup was one of them. What does 1990 hold for Steve Spray and Norton?
Well, I'm really looking forward to the 1990s. I started the season with a couple of wins at Cadwell Park, and we had a little slip-up at Brands Hatch and one at Thruxton the other week. But I mean, now, it's all looking good for the championship, so hopefully we can do the business again.
You mentioned the slip-up at Thruxton, and you knocked yourself about and came off at very high speed. Is that going to affect you today?
Well, we came in on Friday and we did some testing on Friday, and I was going like pretty quick then, so hopefully it's not affecting me too much at all.
And how does the Norton like this circuit?
Well, last year, we smashed the lap record by about 2 seconds. We took 2 seconds off the lap record last year, so hopefully, this year we can bring it back to us, because they have changed the circuit this year, down at the bottom end of the start and finish straight. So, hopefully we can do the business again.
Roger Burnett on Suzuki after so many years with Honda. How's the bike running?
We've had our problems today. I blew my best engine in practice this morning, and I would like to put my neck on the line here and say it was the fastest bike here up until we had our problems. We've swapped engines, and I'm now using my Superbike engine in my Formula 1 bike, which is an untried combination. So I've got the onboard camera on the bike, and it's never done me any harm in the past. Whenever I've run the camera for the BBC, I've always had good luck. So although the qualifying hasn't been very good, and I've only got 1 race today to prove myself, I'll do my best.
Well, as you heard Roger say, he is carrying our camera. Roger Burnett will set off and demonstrate a lap for us around Snetterton. It is very, very noisy on top of a Suzuki motorcycle at those sort of speeds. Roger has a lot on his mind, but he still manages to talk his way around for us.
In this corner, brake at the 200-yard board. Down into 3rd gear, Richie's this corner, double apex, second part of the corner there. Accelerating now to Sears, down 1 more gear, 2nd gear this, could be 1st gear depending on how high a 1st gear you had. And then accelerating onto the back straight. Down a couple of gears. The first part of this is quite quick, and then down another gear for the second part, which is quite slow. I'm not using the right part of the track there because of the oil. Then into the bomb hole, 3rd gear. Accelerate out of there nicely. Into Coram Curve. Fast corner this. Quite bumpy, not been resurfaced. 4th gear, 100 miles an hour, 120 maybe. Then hard on the brakes for the Russell chicane. Again, a new part of the track, not my favourite part. And the traffic lights are on red, so I'm afraid we're going to have to pull into the pits, folks. See you again.
Well, that's the rider's eye view, and now for the map of the circuit as they leave the start-finish up towards the right-hander of Rich's Corner, accelerating away now down towards Sear, another right-angle right-hander up through the gearbox, the fastest part of the circuit along the Revit straight towards the S's, which is a left and a right flick, exiting the S's through the Dunlop Bridge. The bomb hole is next, the right-hander up towards Coram Curve. towards the reworked Russell's Bend, which is now effectively a chicane, 1.949 miles the lap distance. And reforming across the grid now, the man missing from the middle there, number 5, Trevor Nation, who, having qualified so well, regrettably stepped off the Norton in a big way and will be taking no further part in the proceedings. So Terry Rymer on pole, Carl Fogarty alongside him, Rob McElnea and Paul Lewis. Yamaha, Honda, Yamaha and Ducati. Very tense moment now. I have in the commentary box with me a man who is no stranger to you, many times a TT competitor, Mick Grant, very much a team manager these days, but we shall be going to Mick from time to time for the qualified point of view with regard to rider technique and indeed the intricacies of getting a motorcycle around here at Snetterton. The wind has dropped now, and it is a good thing really, because it's a wide open space, and the wind, if it cuts across, makes it very difficult. Side winds aren't any good when racing motorcycles at very high speed. Steve Spray, the man in black, number 20, there on the second row. We'll be looking for him to burst through because he was flying in practice. 15 laps the distance, 10 points for a win, all the way down to 1 point for 10th place. Fogarty, number 4, into the lead. Fogarty leads, and a faller there, cloud of dust, but the machine sliding off. Rider just pinned under the bike, but being lifted off now, so he's wriggling away from underneath. Down the back straight, Steve Spray moving up along the outside. As I said, Mick Grant is with me. Mick, the Norton's very fast. Are the Japanese machines going to be able to stay with Spray?
It's going to be quite difficult, Barry, but as you saw, the Norton is very quick. But I think some of the Japanese bikes may be a little bit better on the corners, and we've got a Yamaha behind there, and I think if they can... Well, the red flag's out, Barry, the race has stopped quite sensibly. Obviously, the guy that went down is maybe, they can't move him straight away.
Okay, thanks, Mick. Well, as you say, the red flag went out. Now the rider went down, going into the first turn there at Riches. So Fogarty is through. Terry Rymer tucked in behind him. The first 5, 6, 7 through safely, but we're waiting for the fall, and there he goes, sideways off onto the grass. And as Mick Grant said, obviously the race stopped to enable the medical services to get to him. The restart of the 750cc race after that first bend pile-up, and the news on the fallen rider is that it was number 48, that's Simon Beck, who has sustained nothing more than an injury to his right ankle, so he will not be taking part as the pack leave the line and head again for Riches. And it's again a carbon copy, Carl Fogarty and Terry Rymer, Honda versus Yamaha, with the Norton tucked in third. Carl Fogarty, number 4. 2 times Formula One world champion Carl Fogarty. That series now has been reduced from a world championship status to the FIM Coupe, but Fogarty still very much in contention, leading the race. Terry Rymer on the Yamaha. At this point, I think it's a good opportunity to ask Mick Grant, what about the differences in the performance of the machine?
Well, watching down the straight there, Barry, the Norton, obviously, from the first leg is very fast. The Yamaha and the Honda up front, first and second place, now seem very similar. I think really it's going to go all eyes on the third position on Spray on the Norton.
Carl Fogarty leads. Terry Rymer, the young man from southeast London, tucked in there in second place. Number 20, Steve Spray on the Norton, still in third. Spray very anxious to win the 1990 Supercup title, to add that to his 89 victory. But Carl Fogarty made an overnight dash, as did several of the riders from the Northwest 200 race yesterday in Northern Ireland. Carl Fogarty finished second, and that's a totally different race, Mick, from this sort of going.
Yes, the roads in Northern Ireland, it's a different pace, and it's very hard to get used to. And in fact, I'm quite surprised that Carl is going so well so quick, because it's chalk and trees from racing around the short circuits in England.
They have the top 6. Steve Chambers up there in 4th place, Jamie Whitham on the Honda in 5th, and Rob McElnea, the ex-Grand Prix campaigner, in 6th on the other Yamaha. So Fogarty tucked in there, a little bit of a flick as he went round, but Fogarty's still in the lead as Steve Spray challenging hard for second alongside Terry Rymer. But Cole Fogarty certainly seems to be getting away. I notice, Mick, that they've changed the front geometry. They've got upside-down forks running on the Hondas now.
Yes, they've been having bothered all year with the front forks, and it seems fashion now that we run upside-down forks, and they do make a significant difference.
Steve Spray now coming the long way round, up past the start-finish area again. Steve Spray takes the lead, squeezes in front on the Norton, relegating Cole Fogarty on the Honda down into 2nd place. The Yamaha still in 3rd of Terry Rymer, but Steve Spray out now to avenge Trevor Nation's downfall, and which took him out of the front row. So Steve Spray, the sole surviving Norton teamster in this race, leading the race.
I think, quite honestly, Barry, on a circuit like Snetterton, which is all about horsepower, even putting upside-down forks and isn't going to make the difference that the Nortons, not the advantage that Norton's got at the minute.
The other aspect, of course, of the Norton is that it does have tremendous torque, and with the new bend which the riders will be approaching shortly as they head up now past the right hand of the bomb hole, and that's where Steve Spray is at the moment, down towards Coram Curve. Coming round Coram Curve now, Steve Spray on the Norton, coming down towards Russell's Bend. This is the new, what is tantamount to a chicane really, and the torque of the Norton, very, very important coming out of this left-hander.
Coram Curve now is completely different. It's not half as quick on the second part of it. There's a nasty little bump where the riders were on the apex on the left-hand side there, and the Norton looks as good as anything through there.
Terry Rymer up to 2nd. So number 7, Terry Rymer, 3rd in the Superbikes and 2nd in the F1 Super Cup Series. Looking to do a bit better than that. Fogarty down into 3rd. Jamie Whitham now still in 4th. Rob McElnea has pulled up a place into 5th. And Ray Stringer, who broke both wrists at Mallory Park last year, having a brilliant start to his 1990 season.
This is going to be the next real interesting part in the next couple of laps, that Rymer there seemed to catch up on the twiddly bits, lose it down the straight, and I think if he can be in a position fairly close behind the Norton on the part the track is on now, towards the back end of the race, he's got to be a very strong position to maybe pip it.
These are the 1st and 2nd place men. So Terry Rymer now winding in the Norton and really pushing hard. Jamie Whitham, 23-year-old Jamie Whitham, is now up to 3rd. Terry Rymer's got the power on and he's inside the Norton. So Terry Rymer puts the Yamaha in front as someone appeared to go straight on there at Coram Curve. And Jamie Whitham's in 3rd. It looks as though Cole Fogarty might have gone straight on, but I'll confirm that. Can't see Fogarty. Oh, he's way down the field. So Fogarty is way down the field, so he had a problem there. Cole Fogarty, number 4, has slipped right back down to something like 7th or 8th place, because Jamie Whitham now sitting hard on the tail of Steve Spray on the Norton. But this is the race leader, number 7, Terry Rymer.
Whitham nearly high-sided then. He's having a good go, as James. He's had a fairly bad season so far, and I'm glad to see him getting back on form again.
The 6th man there on that caption, number 24, Paul Lewis, is pushing on the Ducati, and a beautifully prepared machine that is as well. The Sports Motorcycles Ducati. In fact, he moved up. He looks as though he's now up to 5th. There's Fogarty fighting back. Cole Fogarty, number 4, is behind Steve Chambers. So Chambers is in 6th. Fogarty is right behind him after leading the race. So this is the fight back now by Cole Fogarty, but the pack is really storming on. Brian Morrison on the Honda is also there. Numbers 1 and 2 in the race. Number 7, Terry Rymer leads from number 20, Steve Spray. Jamie Whitham still well. Now look at Fogarty fighting back. He's by Chambers. Very, very talented man, Fogarty.
Fogarty is talented, Barry, but there's an awful lot of work to do because these guys at the front are really going for it. The interesting thing is the first couple of laps, the Norton seem to have an awful lot of horsepower, and it doesn't seem just as marked at this stage, as if maybe now it's got warm, it's not quite as much power to the rear wheel.
Well, it's warming up, Mick, in more ways than one, and certainly the temperature here and in the commentary box warming up, so I have to assume maybe the tyres are working a bit better as well.
Yes, Snetterton is one of the circuits where there are only 2 left-hand corners, and especially the first 2 or 3 laps, you need about 3-4 laps under your belt to get the left-hand side of the tyre really warm, and it's a very testing time at the beginning of the race.
Well, the battle between these two, a titanic struggle as Steve Spray crept past Rymer. Rymer wasn't having any of it and came back at him again. So Terry Rymer, number 7, is back in the lead, and Jamie 69, who incidentally broke his right toe here yesterday in practice. He fell off going into the pit lane and is riding with a strapped up right toe, but it doesn't seem to slow him down. He made the point, it's not his gear changing foot.
No, it's his brake foot, and in all fairness to James, he did get run into from the behind. It wasn't his fault on this occasion.
Jamie Whitham is really piling on the coals, having set the fastest lap round here. And of course, we are looking for the setting of new race records, because this is a new circuit with a different piece having been added, as we said, at Russell's Bend. So number 69, Jamie Whitham, who had a very badly broken ankle in '89 and in fact didn't really have the best of years last year.
No, James had a year on the Suzuki last year. He was doing ever so well, and then it all went wrong at the Ulster Grand Prix when he broke his ankle quite badly. And unfortunately, I think in any sport, it's the back end of the season that counts, and poor old James had to sit on the sidelines and took no part in it.
Well, these two really going now. Terry Rymer, number 7, and Steve Spray, 2 young men at their fiercest, locked together, the Norton versus Yamaha deal. And it looks as though the Nortons are not going to have a runaway season in 1990. The other manufacturers seem to have found just a little bit more power, and they're certainly getting the very best out of their riders.
This circuit at Snetterton must be the best circuit for the Norton, and if it's going to be as tight as this on the circuit that favours the Norton, then I think we're in for a cracking series.
Well, the sun's shining here at Snetterton. The sun's shining indeed on Terry Rymer in second place. Steve Spray back in the front. But look at Jamie Whitham tucked in there behind on the Honda, running white power upside down forks on his Honda. Carl Fogarty's got the Olins on his.
I see Rob McElnea just in there in 4th place. Don't discount Rob. He's had some smashing rides in Hungary and Germany the last few weeks, and he's really is the man of the moment.
Well, as you say, he's going well, but this is a relatively short 15-lap dash round here, Mick. Is he going to find it hard to adjust to that?
He certainly is. I mean, a superbike leg is 100 miles, and you've time to settle down and get the bike right and then go for it. But quite honestly, in a 15-lap dash, if you're not there in the first couple of laps, you've got your work cut out. Having said that, the battle up front, if they just start dicing a bit more and slow themselves down, then both James Whitham and Rob could be in the hunt.
Terry Rymer could not be closer, and Steve Spray had to get up there as Rymer squeezed through on the inside. Steve Spray breathed in and Rymer was through. That was hectic stuff.
Just that little bit of passing there, Barry, you saw that Rob Mack made about 15 or 20 yards, and really Rob's got to be praying that they're going to be changing places a lot so that it'll actually slow them down.
Well, I take your point. Here we are again. You can see for yourselves just how close that is. Steve Spray saw the front wheel squeezing through and thought, whoops, sat up, and Rymer was through. Back again in front, Steve Spray, but Terry Rymer and Jamie Whitham now just stalking the pair of them. So Norton leads Yamaha, leads Honda, and young James Whitham, 23 years of age, would dearly love to win this one.
It'd be a good start for James. He's had a very poor season so far, but he's absolutely bang on form. An interesting thing is that the Norton and the Honda are on Michelin, and the Yamaha's on Dunlop, so there seems to be nothing in that at all.
He's up to second. Second place, number 69, Jamie Whitham, pops a little wheelie there under the bridge as Terry Rymer fights back. These two are no strangers to each other. They've had many a struggle in Supercup, many a struggle in British Championship, and they are very, very similar in their speeds and riding styles. And at one time, Mick, I guess they were both in the frame for Grand Prix rides.
Absolutely, and it's the way the Grand Prix at the minute, with people falling off and get injured, I'm sure they still are.
Spray from Terry Rymer. And there, as Mick Grant so perceptively mentioned, in 4th place, Rob McElnea, number 19, just sitting there, the experience of the Humbersider showing here, just waiting for one of the two of the others maybe to put a foot wrong, in which case he will slide through and capitalize. But we are on lap 10. There are 5 laps to do at the end of this one as Terry Rymer gets alongside Steve Spray again.
Well, the Norton's still got horsepower, Barry. I mean, it needs an awful lot of horsepower to make that much difference in top gear. I would think it must be maybe 10 or 15 horsepower better than Yamaha.
Jamie Whitham again storming round, so the youngster from Huddersfield really going now in second place. Number 69, Jamie Whitham, set the fastest lap. He's now in pursuit of Steve Spray on the Norton. This is a very testing time indeed for the Honda-mounted youngster. And look, Rob Mack has now closed up. Terry Rymer hasn't given up either. So all four of them now could fit in the back of a furniture van. They are so close down towards Russell's, the left-hander. The power of the Norton now should pull away up the straight, but is it? As they come up now past the start-finish area again, Steve Spray just easing away from Jamie Whitham. They are in each other's slipstreams. This is a tremendous start to the 1990 Supercup season.
Couldn't be closer, and they all keep making little mistakes, Barry, and it's going to be the next few laps are going to be very, very interesting. It could be anybody's. I want to put money on any one of the four of them. The Norton certainly isn't having it all its own way, which is a smashing indication for the rest of the year.
Well, Norton had the win yesterday at the Northwest 200 with Robert Dunlop taking both races, and
in actual fact, it was actually timed through the speed trap at 189 miles an hour.
That's almost unbelievable, but I have to take your word for it. That is a very fast motorbike indeed, and it's leading this one. But Jamie Whitham is now just 2 lengths down on Steve Spray. Steve Spray with his knee on the tarmac, and Terry Rymer is really tucked in there behind. They are giving the crowd here, and it's a very big crowd indeed. One thing Supercup has done is not only bring motorcycle racing to the millions at home, it's also fired the enthusiasm of the supporters who have come along to the circuit in their droves.
Yeah, well, I mean, the weather we've had over the last 2 years has helped tremendously, but motorcycling now is very, very popular, and it's on the up, and it's really good to see.
Well, Rob Mack is now being dropped away down there in 4th place. These first 3, their battle is pulling them away from the 4th placeman. They're on lap 12, and Jamie Whitham, the back of the Norton there, had a little twitch.
Steve keeps running wide onto the back of the main straight there, and if he goes over the white line, which you may look at on the next lap, the tarmac's very rough, and you can't get the power down so well.
An awful lot of power indeed. 588cc, the Norton, and Jamie Whitham is really there. He's making that Honda work. The Norton is just not galloping away. Look how close Terry Rymer is. Now, you know them both very well, Mick. Do they keep anything in reserve? Are they those sort of riders?
At this moment, there's nothing in reserve from any of them. Every one of them is looking just for that little gap, that inch that they can actually get the nose in front. There's nothing given and there's nothing taken. They're absolutely flat out.
Rob Mack up to 3rd. McElnea now up to 3rd, has gone past Rymer. So the 2 Yamaha riders dueling at the back. So Rob Mack now is getting the OW01 Yamaha up behind the number 69 Honda. Jamie Whitham and Rymer fighting back. What they won't want to be doing is bringing each other off. What about team orders?
No team orders, I'm sure, in this one. It's every man for himself. Especially, I mean, towards the end of the season, maybe team orders will come in, but certainly not at the minute. The only thing is now, if they start dicing together for 3rd and 4th, they're actually going to drop back further, and that's not a bright-eyed thing to be doing at the minute.
2 laps to go with 10 points up for grabs for the winner. 9.876 all the way down to 10th place at 1 point. 7 rounds of Super Cup. Every single position is vital to the outcome at the end of the series, not to mention the £80,000 total prize fund.
When Spray comes up into now to start his final lap, it'll take about an hour in his own mind to get round. He's going to be looking either side of him on every corner for James sort of making an approach. He's got to stay more or less in the middle of the road, so he can't be outbraked. Get the power on early and just not make any mistakes at all. Very tense time for him.
They are now swarming all over the back of the number 20 Norton. Steve Spray on the Norton. The penultimate lap. Steve Spray now coming up to lap tail enders. This is a tricky time as well because he may well have to change his racing line. So the back markers there ahead of Steve Spray. Dodgy moment this.
Absolutely, he's got to have his fingers crossed because he's only got to read about marker going into a corner, and Whitham's in the very strong position. He'll be looking down the straight now. Look at the guy in front of him. He's past him, so that's okay.
Something under 3 miles now for Steve Spray to do. Number 20, Steve Spray on the Norton, still leads the race by the narrowest of margins from Jamie Whitham and Terry Rymer and Rob McElnea.
He's pulled a little bit. He's actually, I think, taking advantage of the back markers he's just passed. But he's got one coming up that could be nasty. It's going to be very difficult to pass unless he got up the inside of him.
Well, there's Terry Rymer right with him. So Terry Rymer is the only man now in a position to do anything about it. Squeeze back marker as well. So a good move by Terry Rymer, popping the wheel up, coming up now to start the last lap. Steve Spray on the Norton leads from Terry Rymer on the Yamaha. In third place, it looks like
I think
Rob
Whitham's
McElnea.
gone missing. Whitham's gone missing.
Number 69, Jamie Whitham, did not come over the start-finish line that time, so Jamie Whitham appears to have gone from the front of the bunch. But this is the race leader on his last lap now, Steve Spray, and the all-conquering Norton.
He has actually pulled a wee bit of a gap. In fact, that's why the gap appeared, because James went out of it. If he doesn't make any blunders now, he's fairly well home and dry. Although, I mean, I said that, there's only maybe 50 yards in it.
Well, nursing an injured wrist after that very, very fast Thruxton crash. This is Steve Spray's first ride back after crashing at 140 miles an hour some weeks ago at Thruxton. The wrist was strapped earlier on, and it seems to have stood the test of time, because this really has been a terrific race, and it's not over yet, because Terry Rymer having a last gasp attempt going into Russell's for the last time. It's all about the sprint to the line. Steve Spray on the Norton, Terry Rymer on the Yamaha. The line is in sight. Spray gets the win. Rymer's over in second. Rob McElnea, number 19, gets third. So 10 points in the bag for the Norton team, and the winner, Steve Spray, acknowledging the applause of the jubilant crowd. A brilliant start for Norton's campaign in 1990. So there we have the top 6. Spray got it, as you saw from Rymer. Rob McElnea, Paul Lewis, a brilliant 4th on the Ducati. Ray Stringer and Brian Morrison brought up 6th place on another Honda.